they can listen in.
All right. Show number 2, FFA today. Thank you for joining us. Coming to you live on what is a Monday night. We're recording this on October 28th, just to give you guys a frame of reference. I am Bobby Fenton, and this is FFA today. And I'm joined, as I was last week, by my teammate and good friend and league mainstay, owner of the Dunedin Pirates, Andy Villamarzo. What's up, Andy?
How's it going, Bobby? Another Monday, living the dream.
Yeah, so we tried last week. We did my back porch, which was good. And, you know, that was cool because I live pretty far from you, but you happen to be in my neck of the woods. This week we met halfway, so we're at Tijuana Flats here in West Chase, which is a nice place. We got the Monday Night Football game going, and I think we're in good shape here. So, first of all, since we last talked, the Dunedin Pirates have had a practice. How'd that go?
Well, we had 36 guys at practice on Saturday morning. It was a good turnout at Dunedin Middle School. Eric Vitale was out, the quarterback, and he looked pretty good at practice. I think Coach Barlow was pretty happy with the turnout and the performance by the guys. The offensive line really showed out. Had 4 out of the 5 starters there, so you know as well as I do, if you get offensive linemen to practice, you're doing something right.
Easily the hardest thing in semi-pro football is to find the big guys. You know, there's a million people, whether you're 20-something, 30-something, no matter where you go, you can find guys in that 5'8" to 6'1" range who weigh 175 pounds, who can run a little bit. You can always get a million receivers in semi-pro. You can always get a million corners or safeties. You know, linebackers, even that too. But those big linemen, it's hard to get 10 guys on a team that are that physically qualified that want to come out there and do that stuff. And that's a tough position to play.
Yeah, it's always. We all talk to each other, how can we get the big guys out? What can we do? Can we bring donuts to practice?
Incentivize in some way.
Something. I mean, we'd love to get big guys out to practice. If those guys came as often or in bunches like skilled players, I think no team would have any problem fielding a team year in and year out. It's just the big guys are always the hardest guys to find.
Yeah.
They're the diamonds in the rough.
And I get it. I mean, playing semi-pro, when I first started out, I've always been a wide receiver, and I've done some defense with the Pirates, but 2 years ago, we were a little short on guys. We were struggling a little bit, and I played like entire games at defensive end, saw some snaps at like tackle, like right tackle and stuff, and I had never done that before. I'd played tight end before and been in tight blocking, but not, on a down-by-down basis for 50 plays, and as a receiver or even a defensive back or whatever, I never felt that bad after a game, maybe a little sore. I got so beat up, like I had bruises on the insides of my arms, like scratches, like just parts of your fingers, just little things all over the place just hurt. And it really gave me a new respect because I had never, that's one of the things I like about semi-pro football is getting the chance. I've played like almost, half the positions on the field now just because, again, you don't always have numbers. And man, like to have guys come out and do that just for fun, which is all we're doing is just for fun. I mean, I have to salute those guys, really, I do.
In this level, I've played every position except center and I think right and left tackle.
Well, then we need to do that this year, first of all.
Let's make it happen.
Because you punted. Have you place kicked?
I have attempted a field goal in a game. It was an extra point.
It counts. It counts.
2011, I remember, lined it up, and that ball hit right in the behind of the center. Didn't even have a chance. That's okay.
You got an attempt. You're 0 for 1, and you play. This year, we definitely got to get you at tackle just for a few snaps. And I would like one punt, which I requested last year, and we couldn't make it happen. I want to punt one time.
Everybody's a punter.
Yeah, everybody says that, but I really could do it. But anyway, on last week's show, and by the way, if you want to get a hold of us, as always, love getting your emails. If you guys have a chance or want to ask us any questions, you can go to the Facebook. You posted this show on Facebook last week. If anybody goes to that on Facebook and just post a question there, we'll see it and get it on the show. You can email me, bobbygameday@yahoo.com. And what is it, A. Villamarzo?
A. Villamarzo for Twitter, and then Andy Villamarzo @gmail.com.
So yeah, and I'll always want to be an interactive show if possible. Appreciate everybody who listened last week and the positive response. Yeah, I know that semi-pro football is not a widely known thing, but for the people who do play it, that's what the show's for. We want to have like a forum where we can talk about the league and especially the FFA. So we went through the divisions last week, what we think will be the divisions, and looking at all that now this week, we decided that we'd actually take a look at how the league shakes out for this year. And with semi-pro football, it's not, in a lot of ways, it's not, of course, it's not like the NFL or even like college at all as far as the carryover from year to year. But in some ways it is. I mean, in some ways, you look at some of the mainstay teams and they're always good. And they're always there at the end. Teams like the Gladiators, teams like Magic City and things like that. So looking at the divisions we looked at last week, and we'll start in the South this time. We started in the North last week. And first of all, talk about the championship game last year, because that was something that, it wasn't what people thought it was going to be, even before forget about before the season started, even before the playoffs started. Ended up being a big surprise. Talk a little bit about it.
It was a totally dominated game by the Gladiators defensively. Nathan Flowers, a starting quarterback for the Wolverines, which we got to see front and center the second game of the season for the Pirates. It was a 70-0 loss for us week 2. I mean, we go down there and we don't even pinch them, as they say. And the Wolverines and the Gladiators were two teams that we both got to play in the season. So we thought it was going to be this great offense versus defense matchup.
Yeah.
You're kind of looking at Seahawks-Broncos a little bit when you think about a great offense and a great defense. But as you remember from that Super Bowl, the Broncos' great offense was no match for the Seattle defense that was able to just put on a showcase. And that was kind of reminiscent of the Alliance Bowl. You saw the Gladiators defensively stymie the Wolverines' offense, and they just carried all throughout the game, pitching a shutout. And that was, for me, the most impressive thing, is to see a Wolverines high-octane offense that it's not easy to score 70 points. I don't care where you're from. I mean,
I don't care how bad we were or weren't. 70 points is 70 points. But Southwest Florida, and that's a team, any of those teams down there. I mean, obviously there's a huge population down there. They do have a lot of teams, though, so it gets spread a little more thin. How does Southwest Florida do it? Like, how, if you just said, and I didn't know anything about the history of the league, and you just said, here's a league of semi-pro teams in Florida, look at this map, look at these teams, who do you think the good teams are going to be? I would probably guess a couple of those South Florida teams, and obviously if I didn't know any better, I wouldn't know which ones were which, but I'd say a South Florida team or two. I'd probably guess an Orlando team. I'd probably guess a Tampa team. And obviously, you go to the population centers, right? So, and Bradenton certainly isn't that far from the Tampa Bay area, but their roster is mainly made up of guys around there, correct? I mean, it's not a lot of Tampa guys. I know after the Patriots disbanded, maybe some of them did, but they were good before that. How do they do it?
The Gladiators just retain and rebuild. They're able to restock. They're not losing guys each and every year. The starters come back. They have a core. And if a guy does drop off, they're able to replace. And when the Patriots ended up folding prior to that, I believe it was 2018 season.
Yeah, it was 2 seasons ago.
Those guys were able to be incorporated into the defense and to the offense, and it only boosted that status.
Yeah, they were already good.
It's making the rich richer at this point, and the Gladiators were a team that were already good defensively.
Yeah.
You add some pieces, you add, as they know him, T-Man Butts, you add Cliff Tech Lesbanos, a good linebacker.
Speed limit.
Yep, they call him speed limit. Hey, he always says it's speed limit's 55. So you add a guy like that, and you just bolster that that defense up. And then Blair Taylor, guy who played for the Syracuse Strong, actually up in New York, won championships up there. He actually moved down to the Bradenton area, and he's their starting middle linebacker.
Yeah.
So you just made a good team that much better defensively.
All right, well, and we'll get back to them when we get to the northern divisions. Looking back at the South right now, we don't have names for the divisions yet. They're not even certain. These are the ones we thought the league would come up with. Whatever the league does is what's official, so this is just us saying this. But looking at that southern conference and then the northern division in that conference, where we figured, Palm Beach, the Florida Stingrays coming over from the west side, the Southeast Florida Reapers, and then I think maybe the Broward Bulldogs, but again, this depends on where each team's home field is. And then the South Florida Wolverines. Do you see any reason to believe it'll be different in the regular season? Do the Wolverines look like the class of that division once again?
One team that really impressed me as last season progressed was the Southeast Florida Reapers.
Yeah.
I really liked what they were doing as the season continued. When you looked at 2018, they were making little strides, but 2019, they really boosted their stock as you saw the season progress. They played a game against the Gladiators that didn't actually count because it wasn't a scheduled game. It was more of a makeup game because each team lost a game because of forfeits.
Yeah.
They played a game down in Boynton Beach, I believe, and it was a close game. I think it was 15-14 Gladiators.
A testament to that team, both teams really. And so, again, if they are lined up in the same division, they're going to play a couple times this year. And you look at last year, and the Reapers were 7-3, so nothing to scoff at. The Wolverines were 9-1. I'm trying to look up here, but the Wolverines win both of those regular season. Who's the one loss for the Wolverines last year? I should have pulled it up here before.
I believe it was to the Magic City Bulls.
But it wasn't to anybody in there. Yeah, it was. So, another chance for the Reapers to maybe, and the Wolverines before the season, going into last season, weren't a team people thought were going to be as dominant as they were. So you never know from year to year. And same thing goes in the North. I remember the Golden Isle Grizzlies, who were no longer in the league, but they were a startup team, weren't all that good. They were 9-1 last season and really impressed some people. Same type of thing could happen with the Reapers. Of course, you got the Wolverines there too. And then there's a lot we don't know. I mean, Palm Beach was not great last year, but it doesn't mean that anything couldn't change this year. And don't know about the Broward. Do you know much about the Broward Bulldogs? I mean, they're new to the league, or where they were before this. I don't know a lot about them, to be honest with you.
I know that a lot of the players were from the Broward Barracudas, who were in the Florida Champion Football League last year, and they got a lot of players that have a lot of experience on this level. They're a team that I would say you call them a dark horse.
Yeah.
You would say they're a sleeper team that you're not expecting to do much, because when you look at a first-year team, that's that label you give them. You're saying it's a first-year team, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
But I would say if you had one team that you could say is first year, could come in and be a contender, or somebody that could really make some noise in that playoff bracket in the South, the Broward Bulldogs. I've seen a lot of stuff on Instagram and social media. They are really getting after it. The practices look like there's 30-plus guys.
There you go.
That's
always a good sign. I mean,
great sign.
And I'd like maybe next week if we could kind of do a little extra research and just kind of go around the league and see what everybody's numbers have been through practice. I know we're doing pretty good, as far as that goes, and it sounds like some of the other teams are as well. Seems like the league is in a good place. As good of a place as it's been it's been in a good place for a few years now, but it seems like it's in a really solid spot, at least as of now, with all the teams coming in. And one of the things I do like about semi-pro is the change from, and again, even in the NFL, you'll see teams finish last, then make the playoffs, teams finish first, miss the playoffs the next year. But it really is like an Etch-a-Sketch in semi-pro that you shake it every year, and you don't know. Like, with the exception of teams like the Gladiators and Magic City and maybe the Wolverine, everybody else, you could be 2-8 one year and 8-2 the next year, or vice versa. You don't really know. So we'll keep an eye on that division as far as, probably 3 or 4 teams out of the 5 can maybe win that in the northern half of whatever the Southern Conference, if you call it the Alliance Conference or whatever you want. And as far as way down south, now we're talking Dade County. And this is interesting because, we know about the Magic City Bulls, and we know about the South Florida Chargers, who have been a really good organization, who have improved a lot every year. Last year going 5-5. Their first year they were winless. We barely beat them. That was the only game either one of us really was going to win. And so now you've got them. You've got the Hollywood Browns, who are tough. We played them. I remember playing them. They're good. Magic City's Magic City. Then you get the Spartans and the Chiefs. Now, what do you know? I mean, again, these Miami teams, they almost all seem like they're good. These teams coming in, do they have a track record?
The Chiefs have a good track record. They did win the first ever Florida Champion Football League championship.
They've won the whole thing.
Yes, and they have that, for them, championship pedigree. I mean, to us in the FFA, championship pedigree is what teams have been known to bring when they come from the outside, and that's what everybody's looking for, is the League of Champions. You want to bring in a team that has that, competitive drive.
You win another league, you come over here now. We'll see what happens. That's the way it should be.
And the Chiefs have made that long-awaited jump into the FFA, because a lot of people have been waiting for them to make that jump. They finally took that leap of faith, and now they're going to be competing against the Bulls, which in that last show we talked about, I would like to see the Bulls and the Chiefs. Let's get it on. The first week, make it happen.
Or the kickoff classic, not preseason, it would count. And I mean, the Bull, and I've had some fun games. I don't think I've ever played in a game where my team beat the Bulls. And they're the longest running franchise, right? Because I remember even when I played in 2003 and 2006. This is almost 15 years ago now. I remember playing against the Magic City Bulls, and so many teams come and go in that time, but they are the mainstay.
Yeah.
How do they do it? I mean, when you look at South Florida semi-pro football, I guess they're considered like the New York Yankees of it, right?
Yeah. They're coming off the conference championship loss to the Wolverines, so that stings. I know Trernard Cook, the owner, very well, and to him, that's a sticking point.
Oh, of course.
Losing to the Wolverines, that's not something that he's going to sit there and say, that's okay. Their goal every season is to get to the championship game. That, to them, if they don't get to the Lions Bowl, anything less than that is disappointment. Yeah. So for the Bulls, they want to get back to Daytona Beach. They want to face the Gladiators or whomever gets to that point. And for the Bulls, that is the goal right now. Get back to Daytona Beach, be in the championship game, and be in contention. And if they can get back to that point, it'll be satisfying. But anything less is disappointing for the Bulls franchise.
What do we know about the Spartans?
They were in the FFA prior in, I believe it was 2016.
Okay,
and
so before I started back.
Yeah, and they have a track record of having a good competitive team. They are a team that everybody I've talked to has said they're going to compete. They're going to have good players. They have good ownership that knows how to run a team. They took a little bit of time off. Rick Davis, the owner of the Miami Spartans, is back into it.
Okay.
Everybody's told me if he's going to put something out there, it's going to be good. They're going to have a good competitive team. And I know the Spartans and the Bulls had a long-standing rivalry. I believe they even had some cameos from, I want to say, Brandon Marshall. When he played for the Miami Dolphins, he actually did some stuff with them.
That's
and
cool.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting franchise, really. The Spartans, they have some history to where they tie themselves to the Miami Dolphins and Brandon Marshall when he was there. So I'd say watch out for them. I don't know if they're going to be a team that contends for the championship, but I'd say they're going to be competitive.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, and then another one that could be like that is the South Florida Chargers that we talked about. And first of all, if anybody from those guys is listening, hats off to whoever came up with the color scheme. I love the light blue and the yellow. It's probably my favorite unis in the league, besides ours from when I designed them, of course, or helped design them.
Yes,
helped design to have the sole control over that. But they are a team that, again, started out, took their lumps. They were 0-10, and then were they 0-10 the second year, or 1-9 the second year, or something like that?
I believe so, yeah.
And then last year they go 5-5, and I'm sure they've got real high hopes to make another step forward, have a winning season in 2020.
Absolutely. The Chargers, I don't think, are looking to take any steps back. They don't want to regress. They want to take a step forward and get over the 500 mark, be able to make some noise in the playoffs. Not quite sure if they're their championship talk.
Yeah,
but
they're in a tough spot, too. That's those South Florida divisions, man. There's no rest for the weary. You got to come every single week and bring your best stuff. And so they're going to have their work cut out for them, too. And then Hollywood. Yeah, Hollywood's good, too. I remember playing Hollywood thinking they were pretty tough. That was 2 seasons ago, but last year they were pretty good, too, right?
Yeah, they were another team. They were like the Wolverines. They were on the cusp. They were that team that you were always saying they're going to be tough. They're going to be a team that can contend for the conference championship. But they never quite got to the Alliance Bowl, and that's something that Travis Howard, the owner, I know it might eat at him a lot that they never got to that point. And to see the Wolverines be able to get over that hump in South Florida over the Bulls, because the Bulls are that proverbial speed bump. They're that, how can we get over that? And the Wolverines,
that's the measuring stick, really. I mean, that's how it's always been. So it should be really interesting down there. Then we'll go up north. And up north, it's a little more interesting because nobody really jumps out. I mean, I would think of that further northernmost division, whatever it ends up being called. Jacksonville Cardinals, the Duval Raiders, a newcomer in the St. Augustine Crusaders. Of course, Port Orange has struggled a little bit in recent years, but they were 3-7 last year. They got 3 wins. And then Space Coast, another newcomer. Is that a race between the Cardinals and Raiders in that division pretty much, or does one stand out more than the other to you?
I'd actually watch out for the Space Coast Tar Heels.
Really? See, I don't know a lot about them. I don't know a lot about them.
Very good team coming out of the Florida Champion Football League. They make the jump over. Matt Parsons was actually a starting quarterback for the Orlando Rage a few years back.
Okay, remember them, yeah.
He's very familiar with the FFA scene. Roger Lewis, a very good owner. He's run the Tar Heels here. They play their home games at Astronaut High School over there on the coast. They've developed a great relationship with the community in that area. I would expect to actually see the Tar Heels make a run for the for that division title there and be in the conversation to maybe get to the conference championship. It's gonna be interesting, but I'd say right now my front runner in that division, though the Cardinals and the Raiders have that familiarity already in the FFA, the Tar Heels are no team to sleep on.
Oh yeah, you can come right in and absolutely perform in this division, in this league, really. So I'm looking forward to, maybe we'll get a chance to see them, maybe not. But it will be interesting to see. And then you get to our division, and we're going to try and play it straight up, not be as biased. Obviously, we're Dunedin Pirates guys. That's how this podcast originated. But we talk about the whole league, so it's no secret. I mean, and you and I are competitive guys. Nobody likes to lose. But everybody thinks, we're the ones to take down. The Southwest Florida Gladiators are the team to beat in our division. There's no arguing that. Is there a reason to think it could be different this year right now?
Well, the West Coast Soldiers may have something to say about it.
Yeah, I've never been in a league with them. They're new to me. Not you, but they're pretty tough too, right?
Absolutely. They have Nick Martino at quarterback, who many know from the FCFL, the Florida Champion Football League. He was actually their league MVP last year.
Oh, wow.
So, very good player coming into the FFA. I would expect him to put up, big numbers. The Gladiators, obviously, we already aforementioned them. Very tough team. The Pirates, we're coming off a season.
We're better. I mean, I haven't been to practice yet, so I'm just talking out of my ass. But you've been there, and the numbers alone bear it out. But I think this is probably, and again, everybody's all sunshine and rainbows in the preseason. It's probably the best shape the team's been in, right, going into a season at this point, like before even Halloween, right? Have we had this many guys out there this early?
I think we've had this many guys out there, but the familiarity is as good as it's been in years. And I think that, you bring back Eric Vitale from last year. He's familiar with Coach Nate Barlow's system. You got some guys that played on the offensive and defensive side of the ball that are coming back from last year. I think, it's on the upside. It's on the up and up for the Pirates, but it's winning football games on the field, and that's something that the team is going to have to learn how to win. And you got two tough opponents in the division in the Soldiers and the Gladiators. Are they, are the Pirates ready to make that jump?
Yeah.
They got to prove it on the field.
Yeah, I mean, you look at 4 games against the Soldiers and Gladiators combined. Then you've got Orlando. And Orlando's, like I said, a funny place when it comes to semi-pro football, because I've played against teams before that were really good for them. I remember the Rage going back to, and I go last year they were supposed to be in the league and they folded before the season started. But going back like 10 years, I remember playing the Rage and they were really good. I always hear about the Phantoms, how good they are. They haven't been able to get them in the FFA. What do we make of the Generals?
The Generals, I've heard, are a very young team.
Okay.
I haven't heard, too much out of the camp outside of, they do have some good numbers. They have some young guys. I would say they're going to compete, but it's going to be a wait and see. How many wins they're going to compile, how they're going to compete for a division title. I don't know if those are things right now that are right there on the docket for them. I think it's getting off the ground, being able to put out a good product, and the young guys are going to be able, they're going to have to make that adjustment, because these are probably right out of high school, guys, young guys that aren't familiar to this level.
Yeah, and then you look at another team that's new, and it's good to have a Tampa team. I'm not a Tampa guy. I play with Dunedin again. I've been with these guys a long time, know all you guys. But it's good to have a team in on the Hillsborough side of the Bay, in the Bay Area Panthers. Now, the Tampa Bay Patriots were a perennial powerhouse. I still can't believe they fold. Like, sometimes teams fold, they just can't make it work. That was a franchise that was making it work. What happened there? How come they couldn't keep it going? They had a home field, they had everything they needed.
Well, I think that it's a little bit of, the previous owner, Gene Allen, stepped away. He wasn't running the team anymore. He passed it down to Arthur Killens, who in fairness to him, was always a coach, and it's always hard to take over a team.
It's a lot of work. I know what you do. I know what you do because you showed me.
It's a ton of work, and it's no knock on him. It's not for everybody to take over a team and be able to run it. Is just
and do both and coach too.
It's
yeah,
so hard. It's not. I wouldn't say it is an easy job at all. I always commend anybody who does it, and I always say if you need any help, if you need any advice, I'm always here to try to give insight, to how to run a team or how to, just really expand and build your brand. Because to me, if you build your brand, you build that name, guys will come. If you build it, they will come. It's like the Field of Dreams.
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, I mean, we all want to knock each other in the dirt on the field. We're all competitive. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. That's fine. But we care. I mean, I care about the overall health of the league. We want everybody to succeed. We want everybody to have good competitive teams and may the best team win. Again, if it's us or somebody else on any given weekend, that's fine. But yeah, and the Patriots were a really good team. So what I'm getting at here, I'm not glossing over the Bay Area Panthers. I know a lot of guys that played for the Patriots, and this is a championship level team. Some went to the Gladiators, but they've got an embarrassment of riches. Do some of those guys go to the Panthers now that live in the Tampa area that can play and say, hey, here's a chance where I can be part of something to start out, or I'm not going to compete at a position where there's 7 guys deep. Instead, I'll be the guy. Do they have a nucleus to start out maybe that's an advantage over some other teams that are in their first year, or is it going to be a tough road to hoe for them?
I would say it's going to be a mix between some guys that played previously with the Florida War Eagles.
Oh, yeah, I forgot them. Eastlake, right? Yeah.
You'll have some guys that did play on the Soldiers that came over. It's a mix of guys that are from many teams, many backgrounds. You have Paul Lively running the team. He used to be with the Gladiators organization. He was actually one of their backup quarterbacks, and he played tight end. So he knows. He's been a part of a team that's won a championship. He knows what it takes. But it's going to be growing pains to run a team. Obviously, as a first-time owner, it's always tough right out the gates. And I know Paul is doing, everything he can to run that program as best as he can. And I'd say they're going to be a team that has talent. Obviously, being in the area they are,
it's Tampa. We got tons of ball players, and a lot of this too. And this is why I use my podcast on Joe Buck's Fan, the Free Stretch, to get this out there, because there's a lot of guys who played high school ball, maybe were good players, maybe even played in college, who are living in metropolises like the Tampa Bay area, like South Florida, like Orlando, who if they knew something like this existed probably would play and don't realize it yet. Because I guarantee in Tampa there's a bunch of guys like that. And of course Scott Mirto, our old friend, former head coach at Dunedin, is going to be head coaching over there for Bay Area Panthers. I mean, it should be fun. I look forward to our 2 games with them. I think it'll be a lot of fun to have that cross Bay thing going again. So, we'll see. But, the whole thing with Southwest Florida and the West Coast Soldiers is going to be a challenge for Dunedin, for Orlando, and for Bay Area to try and take that mantle away. And now, again, the Soldiers really do mix things up in our division. So I think it's going to be a nice little Central Florida division there.
Yeah, you got to look at it almost as I guess comparable to the NFC South in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, you got a lot of good teams that got some, championship pedigree already. They've been to the big game, and then you got a team like the Pirates, you got the Generals, you got the Panthers that haven't quite really had that taste of being, at the top. The Pirates have been to the playoffs a couple times in the FFA, had a close call last year against the Cardinals, but haven't been at that championship level, and there's a lot to prove. So until that's answered, I don't know if you can, at all say, hey, the Pirates are right there on the level of the Soldiers and the Gladiators. It's a get on the field and prove it to us.
It's like the nature boy Ric Flair always said, you want to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. You want to be the man, you got to beat the man. So we're going to have our chances to do that. Everybody's going to. Again, the divisional alignment we've laid out is not official. It's just what we think it could be. We're assuming, looking ahead like we talked about last week, that it would be, it's always a 10-game, 11-week scheduling format with a bye week, and that it would be 2 games against the other 4 teams in your division, and then, 1 floating game against the other conference, and maybe 1 against the other division in your conference. So there's a lot to still be figured out. But it's exciting to have, as of now, still 20 teams all ready to go, looking like everybody's doing pretty well with practice, and hopefully we get a schedule here in the next month or so. And we can start, once we get that, we can really start looking at matchups and knowing the alignment and everything. we can really go to town.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Once we get a schedule out there, that's going to be something to where we can take a look at the matchups. Week 1 is always the most pivotal, I believe, on this semi.
You think?
I think so.
Why do you think that?
Because I feel like if you win your Week 1 game, it's almost historically, it almost dictates how the season's going to be. I've always felt that way. In 2012 with the Pirates, formerly the Anclo Pirates,
right.
We won our first game against the Pasco County Hitmen, and I felt like that helped set the precedent for the rest of the season. It really catapulted us to win. We went 8-2 that year. Our only 2 losses, one was to the Hitmen in a rematch, which I actually scheduled the game on a Sunday, the day after St. Patty's Day.
Okay. So you changed.
That was a disaster. I actually set our team up for failure.
Should have played an early game on St. Patty's, like a noon game on St. Patty's Day. Then you get it out of the way. Everybody can go do whatever they want.
Yeah,
what are you thinking?
I don't know what I was thinking. Everybody actually still comes at me and says, "I can't believe you scheduled the game after St. Patrick's Day. We're all hungover," and I'm like, "Well, I wasn't, but."
Yeah, you and me aren't those type of guys, so sometimes we have a hard. Same with Gasparilla, like we said last week. I mean, I'm not one. I'll go out and have fun. I don't really drink all that much. I go to bed. I'm fine the next day. But I guess we got a lot of younger guys. I mean, you're in your 30s. I'm 39. When you're 22, like most of these guys are like half my age in the league now. They're living different lives than we are, really.
Yeah, they're able to go out on a Friday night, get out there on a Saturday, and perform. Yeah. For me, I couldn't do that. If I do that, it's going to be a long Saturday for me. So I think at this point, the older you get, the more preparation you got to put in, and you got to be more cognizant of what you put in your body before game day. So,
oh god, I'm on like this whole. I didn't take any supplements or anything in my 20s, and now I got fish. I highly recommend all of it. I got fish oil, whey protein, creatine. These are all healthy, normal, and legal. They're not violating anything. Collagen's a big one as you get a little older. Try that if you haven't tried that. It makes your joints just all lubed up, feels good.
All right.
Your hair and your fingernails will grow a little faster, but that's fine.
I've been doing cryotherapy, actually.
Oh, I've heard that's good, and I've heard it's bunk. You feel different, or is it psychological? What do you think?
It could. I think it's a little bit of both, but actually, when I was doing the sessions once a week, I did it for a month. I felt great. Like, every day was just this...
Yeah.
My body just felt revitalized, and I would go to cryogenics in Palm Harbor, and the sessions are actually very affordable, and they actually were saying if the whole team came in, they would bring it down to bulk. $10, $20.
I'm in. I've never had it done before.
Hey, it's 3 minutes of feel like you're in Antarctica or something.
They get it down to like minus 150 or whatever, minus 200, something like that. I think the lowest temperature ever recorded was like minus 220 or something in Vostok, Antarctica. If I'm not to look that up, don't quote me on that, guys. But, hey, anything it takes. And I remember, I specifically remember it was like 2004. I've also done rec league baseball, like the city of Tampa has a league, and now there's the Central Florida Amateur Baseball League. Same exact thing as semi-pro football, only baseball. So it's not slow pitch softball, it's fast pitch, wooden bats. And we had a party, this is in my 20s, at one night at some buddy's apartment. It might have been Halloween or something like that. And I got to bed, and I lived at the apartment, I was roommates with my buddy. And I got to bed at 6:30 a.m. that morning, and we had a game at 10:30.
Oh, wow.
And I slept until like 9, 2.5, woke up when it had 3 hits in the game. Felt fine.
Yep.
Slept later.
See, when you're younger, you're able to get up and just, hey, be a superstar.
Now, I did not have, again, I never was a big drinker, so even though I was up that late, didn't really have anything to drink. So I wasn't drunk, just lack of sleep. And whenever that happens, no matter how horrible your night of sleep was, when you first wake up and get going, that first hour or two is fine. It's like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock later in the day, you feel terrible.
Yep.
But yeah, I got it done that night. So anyway, back to what you were saying about the first game setting a tone. And you look at like the NFL, for example. It doesn't matter at all. The first game feels like it was eons ago by the time you get to week 10. And that's true too in the FFA, but the result, I mean, normally, excuse me, you find out a lot quicker. Probably because there's less parity in the semi-pro leagues. You find out a lot quicker what you have in a situation like semi-pro. I remember the Bucks, their Super Bowl season, lost their first game. They've seen teams go 1-2 or whatever, go out and win the Super Bowl. That usually doesn't happen in semi-pro. You're usually going to see teams 2-0, 3-0, right out the gate. Those are the teams that are going to be there by the end in most cases.
Yeah, I just feel that first game helps set the tone because you only get 10 games. You're not guaranteed 10 games because, as we know, as the season progresses, some teams' rosters start to really thin out, and then they, aren't able to finish, and that's where you're saying, okay, now our season's 9 games, or now our season's 8 games, and that first game is so vital to how your season's going to play out because it's the temperature of your team. You're able to say, hey, we came out the gates, we won that first game. Now we can continue and go streaking, as they'd say, get on a winning streak. But if you lose that first game, now you get back and you're like, we're 0-1, we got to play catch-up. And when you got 10 games, that's the pressure's tighter.
You're right, and in this league, I mean, like you said, it's going to be tough right from the get-go, so let's try and not schedule if we have any control over it. Let's not take the Gladiators in week 1, maybe ease into it a little bit. Of course, everybody's going to want to say that. Yeah.
Well, mentally, the guys get out of it quicker too. In the NFL, obviously, guys are getting paid. In college football, you're looking at a potential dream of playing in the NFL. You check yourself at the door. On this level, you lose one game, you're not mentally all there. You let your emotions get the best of you, and now you just want to not play out of nowhere. And I've seen that situation over the years, and I've seen guys after 1-2 games just drop their equipment and they're like, I'm done.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, it doesn't go well. People come and go, and that's part of semi-pro. It's just part of the deal. And, the thing is, and I've coached before at the high school level. I've coached JV mainly, a little bit of varsity. I know Nate has too, and of course he's coaching us. I have to ask him when he gets on the show. But as a coach, you always think you're bad before your first game. Like, when you've just seen nothing but practice, you're always wondering, I wonder if we're good. Are we good? You don't really know. I remember the 2 years I coached at Jefferson, and one of them was this team where we returned everybody that had lost in the state semifinal, knew we were good, won the state championship, went undefeated that first year. But the second year, I was like, do we suck? I think we suck, like privately with the other coaches. And we ended up being pretty good that year, too, not as good as the state championship team. And I bet you Nate would say the same thing. Like, you don't know, but you always think, we're not that good. And we're going to get the preseason game in December with that Colorado team, which is going to be telling. Do we know anything about them? Or, if they're traveling this far, they're that organized, they must be pretty decent, because some fly-by-night operation is not going to travel halfway across the country for a semi-pro game. So they should be pretty decent, right?
Yeah, they've won. They actually just won a game over the weekend against a team called the Santa Fe Sting.
They're already playing. So they went to New Mexico, Santa Fe? Or?
Yeah, the Santa Fe Sting actually went up to Colorado. They beat them 22-20 per their owner. Their next game is the Pirates.
It's us.
So they are getting ready.
Do all this with these traveling? I'd love to do something like that. I can't imagine.
I would love it. I think it would be awesome to go to another state and play, but just the pure logistics. It's like us talking about last week, going down to Key West. Yeah. It's just getting everybody. Guys are having trouble just getting to.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm
practice.
Saying. I don't know how anybody does it.
How do you take an entire team, or just take 30 to 35 of your guys and say, let's get together. Go to South Carolina. Let's go to Georgia. Let's go to Texas.
Yeah.
How do you do that? I mean, I don't know. That's something in all my time I've never done.
Chris Norman told me a story, and this blows my mind. That some other team he was on around here. Chris Norman's one of our wideouts, and a good friend of mine. He said they got this group of guys to go up to Atlanta to play a semi-pro game in Atlanta. Drove to Atlanta from Tampa or wherever, maybe it was somewhere else, but around here somewhere. And when they got there, like the team they were supposed to play didn't show up. They just did, and they just turned around and went home. They drove from here to Atlanta.
Wow.
They were there for a few hours, no game, and then and they went back to Tampa. That blows my mind.
I mean, I've been up there to watch a game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but I have never had to go up there to play a semi-pro game. And to go up there, that's what takes a little bit of the want and play. Is when something like that happens, because then you as a player, you're like, you got to be kidding me! I just wasted my Saturday.
That would break me. I mean, if I was in my 20s, it'd be one thing. Even then, it would break me. But as a guy who's got kids, and all that, it's hard to do these things. To put that much effort into something and have it fall through without even being told would be a little bit upsetting. But the beautiful thing about Florida is we don't have to. We have so many teams here. We don't have to. I appreciate these guys from Colorado coming. Again, I'm not sure how the game's going to go. I don't know much about them. They might be incredible, but either way, no matter what, I mean, them making the effort to come here. I really appreciate that from them, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So
yeah,
I hope
Colorado.
it's a lot of fun. I don't know. Maybe it won't be.
Yeah, they just won a game. I mean, we gotta know they're ready to play. Colorado versus Florida, December 14th in Dunedin.
Yeah, it should be, again, just interesting. I know we had that one game a couple years ago scheduled against the Canadian team. That was going to be cool. That fell through. So this will be a chance to see some teams from other parts of the country and see the brand of football that's played. And yeah, I think it'll be a great experience. So I guess that'll wrap it up for this week. Like I said, the more as we get into the closer to the season, we'll get more information on teams, on practices, how they're going. We're going to try and bring in some coaches. I know our own Nate Barlow, definitely going to have him on at some point, and maybe the coach of the Soldiers as well. We had talked about maybe getting him on, but others as well. I mean, again, email us, Bobby Fenton, or excuse me, my email address. I am Bobby Fenton. My email address, bobbygameday@yahoo.com, Andy Villamarzo @gmail.com, right? So, and then of course Twitter, Villamarzo. I'm Bobby Game Day. And that'll do it, Andy. So hydrate. I know you've been working a lot at practice. Get ready for next weekend, right?
Yeah, actually, just threw with some of the guys a little earlier, doing a backup role behind Eric. So I try to keep my arm somewhat, ready.
Keep it loose, yeah.
Never know.
We'll go West Coast if you're in there. We're not going to launch it, right? Oh, you got a good arm though. You can get on field a little bit.
I could throw it a little bit. Yeah. I'm not gonna. Eric's got an absolute cannon. I mean, he could throw it 50, 55, 60 yards on a good day. 40 yards, 45 maybe.
That's all we need. Let's be honest. But anyway, thanks to you, Andy. Thanks to all you guys out there for listening. This is FFA Today. We'll be back with a show at some point next week. And in the meantime, like I said, keep working out, keep hitting your practices, or if you're busy, just find time to keep your body in shape. The season is almost here, boys and girls. In the meantime, wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good night. The FFA, the league that delivers.